So many performance notebooks out there today are focused on gamers, but gamers aren't the only ones that are actually looking for performance. Work machines require performance to be the most efficient, productive devices out there, and they're actually doing work, generating income. So MSI's Prestige range has always stood for that. It's been a bastion for that kind of work. And this year, there's been a remarkable pivot in the series aimed at making them more useful than ever. AI. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, turning your eyeballs and probably freaking out at the term AI, but MSI have truly done something different here. With an Intel Core Ultra 9 processor, Intel's premium neural computing chip, it's clearly a more focused machine. Whether you're a creative or a business user, stay watching. You're going to want to see this. This video is sponsored by MSI, so thank you so much for allowing me to introduce you to the new Prestige. The model that I got was the MSI Prestige 16 laptop. This is the 16-inch bad boy. It comes with Windows 11 Pro or Home Edition with a recommendation for Windows 11 Pro for business purposes. So make sure if you are getting your notebook through work to specify that. As I said, it's got that Intel Core Ultra 9 processor, which provides powerful performance for AI programs and intensive applications. It is a neural computing chip, of course. It's also equipped with NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 4070, their laptop GPU with 8 gigs of GDDR6, validated by NVIDIA Studio for creators. So for those of you who don't know, NVIDIA have got different drivers. You can have studio mode or gaming mode, and this is validated for the studio mode. Of course, it can go into the gaming mode drivers, but just so that you know, you have all of that creative horsepower under the hood. It supports AI-driven applications with features like ray tracing and DLSS3 for enhanced creative workflows. This means it's got this performance multiplying boost that's being driven by AI on the GPU, which is rad. The screen is very impressive. The one that we've got obviously is the 16-inch. It's a 16 by 10 QHD plus 2560 by 1600 OLED 4K HDR display. So you get some really pumping blacks, which is amazing. You want to be able to, it looks like the actual screen is off at those black spots. Obviously, the negative side of that is that it's not a matte screen. So those of you who prefer matte screens, you won't get that. I don't like matte screens as much because matte screens don't have that depth of color. You want to be able to see things as clearly as possible. And especially with content creation now, or it being creative in any sphere, most people aren't, designing for print. They're designing for online, whether you are editing a video or you are posting stuff on socials. You want to be able to see what that looks like. So that's why it's so important. It's got an IPS level panel, and those colors are extraordinarily vivid. It's just something to behold. Another negative, I think, for a lot of people is that it's only 60 hertz. Now, of course, 60 hertz for a lot of people, that's standard, right? That's what you'd expect. And if you're editing video with this, 60 hertz is great. The trade-off is that if you have a higher refresh rate screen, you're going to use a lot more battery, and that would hamper your productivity, of course, because it's going to be charging into the battery. But you don't really need to edit in 120 or 120 hertz or 144 hertz because it's not going to make a difference to you. In fact, I would argue that it's a negative thing. 60 frames a second is perfect, and I think you shouldn't really be uploading anything more than 60 frames a second on anything like YouTube if you're editing video, unless it's gameplay that you want to show off and you want to have a really high refresh rate for that. It also doesn't have a touchscreen, which I really would have liked to have seen, but it is what it is. Like, especially because it goes flat like that. That's really cool. To have a touchscreen means that you just have another layer of interactivity, but maybe it's not worth a price bump for just a touchscreen. Connectivity is pumping on here. This includes an Intel Killer Wi-Fi 7. So you're future-proofing yourself if you've got a Wi-Fi 7 router. So you're getting the fastest wireless internet experience. Also, it's got Bluetooth 5.4 for reliable connections if you are, using Bluetooth headphones, which I'm sure you are. And this is a very secure notebook. I really like the fact that they have a literal manual in-camera shutter. What would you call it? Yeah, it's a webcam shutter, right? Just like right over here. So you can literally tab it close. So no matter what software that you've got running, you don't have to worry about people like filming you, especially if you are doing a lot of NDA'd work on here, if this is a work notebook and you don't want people to see what you're doing or snoop in on meetings or whatever the case is. There's a lot of corporate espionage, but also just a privacy concern. Having that manual, I think every notebook should have this, but having that manual shutter is just so cool over the webcam. Just ups that level of privacy and security. The build quality is also very impressive, right? So it's extremely thin. This is a magnesium aluminum chassis and it weighs 1.6 kgs and it measures at the thickest point over here 18.95 millimeters, so just shy of 2 centimeters. That's very, very thin. But one of the things is, I'm sure they could have made it a little bit thinner, but the trade-off here is that they've added a Ethernet port, which I really like. I think this is something that's lacking from a lot of modern notebooks, just being able to plug it in. And they've really considered that in the build as well, because at the back here, you'll see there's even an HDMI port. So these are just practical things. I've often been in meetings where you can't connect to the Wi-Fi for whatever reason, but you can just plug it into Ethernet for a presentation and then plug this to the projector and you're good to go. And you've got like a PowerPoint presentation that you can just pump up to the big screen or showing some stuff that you've done. The keyboard, however, could be better. It's not individually lit. Any of these keys is just one big white backlight, which I guess is good enough. It's not for gamers, but also probably a bit overkill in many senses. And it's got this massive numpad, which I think is really cool. The fact that they've included this is, again, it makes it more practical for work. A lot of people will not want the numpad, maybe want the machine a little bit smaller, but that numpad on the 16-inch is just practical, right? A lot of professionals need access to numbers for spreadsheets and stuff. And of course, it's got those AI features. MSI's AI engine is optimized right now for the hardware settings for various scenarios, enhancing your productivity and performance depending on what you're actually currently doing with it. But I'll jump into that a little bit further on, but it requires a lot of this hardware to be able to achieve this. In terms of memory, there's a bunch of different configurations with a 32 gigs of RAM. I've only got a 16 gig over here and a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, which is great. It means that there's a lot of storage and it's very quick to access it, and it'll make it feel like much more efficient procedure just using it. And yes, there are a variety of ports, including a USB Gen 1 3.2 Type A USB-C. Where's that? It's over here. It's got a Type C with power delivery 3.0 for charging. It's got an HDMI 2.1 and a full-size SD card reader. The benefits here, let me just stack them for you, is that the HDMI 2.1 means that you can output this to a monitor. If you are wanting to game with this and have a need for a higher refresh rate, maybe the screen won't be able to do that for you, but your monitor might. And with an HDMI 2.1, you should be able to push that 4070 in here to get the frames that you want in a gaming setup. So you might have a setup where you game at home and you have your gaming monitor on your desk and you can just like plonk this down and plug it in. Perfect. And then when you leave this unplugged and you go do your work, it will make sure the battery obviously lasts a lot longer, but you don't need that kind of performance on the road. It's also got that full size SD card slot, which is great for content creators like myself. We constantly need to dump footage and film like this, and being able to just slot it in here and dump the footage is without adapters or whatever is just great. You know, it's always just built in there. And then that power delivery 3.0 USB-C is very cool. So this means that if you've got a PD 3.0 power brick for your phone or for your tablet, for whatever reason, a lot of people do. I have a 65 watt and a 45 watt actually that I use to take on the road. That will charge this notebook. So if you forget your notebook at home, it will be able to charge using that 65 watt or 45 watt PD 3.0 charging brick. And then it means that you can carry lighter wherever you're going. If you're going to work at a coffee shop or if you're working on a plane or whatever the case is, those bricks are a lot smaller and more convenient to use. Another security thing which I really like is they have a fingerprint reader on the power button, which is great, super convenient and super secure. And then Windows Hello as well, so you can just quickly and efficiently log into your system with a lot of security. Speaking about the battery, it's got depending on which model you've got, a 75 or 99 watt hour lithium polymer battery, which provides high efficiency for working on the go. And it comes with a 100 watt power brick for that super fast charging. As I said before, you can use a 65 watt that you use on your phone, but 100 watt will obviously charge it a lot quicker. Also, it's extremely quiet. Like, I'm actually quite shocked at how quiet this thing is. A lot of these notebooks do, when they are pushing stuff, they do tend to be loud, but this, I don't know, what MSI have done with the Prestige this year, but it's very quiet. So let's address the AI elephant in the room. This laptop is designed for professionals who, people that require a combination of mobility, obviously, you can take this around, and performance, because you need to be able to do the best that you can, and AI enhanced capabilities for their creative and business needs. So whether you're doing work creatively on this, or if you're a business person, AI is going to help you. And you probably have AI workflows already. Inside the MSI Center, which is the software on here, it's got AI performance control instead of user scenario. They do have user scenarios, but that performance control is very impressive. You can add apps that will automatically switch on the AI mode, depending on what apps are being used. And the AI will get to understand how you use the notebook and what apps need a lot of performance, and be able to shift gears on the system to make sure that it meets the needs of you using it, all happening in the back end. You'll see that there is a notification that pops up when the AI mode is kicking in or changing a setting. So you have a constant awareness of what's going on. It's not just happening in the background. But I find that a lot of these user scenarios, or individual fan settings inside like MSI Center, are great for a lot of enthusiasts, but people that are on the go and just want to get stuff done, they just want it to work the best that it can, right? And that's what the AI performance control is all about. It's also got AI noise canceling for calls. So if you are on a call and you're using the microphones, there's a microphone array over here, all over the machine, then what it will do is it will take out the noise in the environment that you're in, if you're in a coffee shop and you're busy doing a meeting or whatever the case is, and the other way around as well. So if somebody is calling you and there's a lot of noise on that end, it will isolate the voice of the person calling you, and you will hear them a lot clearer. So that just means that you can stay a lot more connected. And that's going to mean a lot to a lot of people that are, working from home or on the road, or not in the office anymore, and rely on these notebooks to be our office space. The Prestige is also compatible with AI Artist. I did a whole video on that if you want to go check it out. But AI Artist is kind of like Stable Diffusion built into MSI's notebooks, and you can download that and you can generate images using your MSI machine, and it's got to meet a certain specs, but this one, the Prestige, does. It's got that support. It meets those specs so that you can generate images for whatever you need, for presentations or for any creative work that you're busy doing. It's very impressive. Go check out that video that I made. I'll include that in the cards in the top of the video here. All in all, I'm actually very impressed with this. It's competent at playing games, which is something that I would like to do. It's one of the reasons why I wouldn't use, the Fruit machine. Just having a business-centric notebook that is competent in the Adobe Creative Suite. It's competent in any kind of business. It's catered towards that. It's considered things like security and having that literal camera switch on the top, including voice canceling, noise canceling of the voices and stuff. It's considering how people use these notebooks for work, and then the capacity to be able to play games on here is very, very cool. It's got a 4070. It's competent at that. It's obviously not the primary reason people buy it, but having a graphics card that powerful means you should. It's great for games like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, or whatever the case is. And if you want more than 60 frames a second, if you're using the 60 hertz display, make sure that you've got like a gaming setup, like a monitor at home. A lot of people do, and just get this docked. You can use one of these USB-C ports, and you can use this HDMI 2.0, plug the HDMI 2.0 in, 2.1, sorry, my bad. Plug the HDMI 2.1 in, and then use this USB-C to put your mouse and keyboard, and you've got like a gaming rig on the go. That's really quiet. Well done, MSI. I'm very impressed with the MSI Prestige. I think that you guys have done a killer job. If you guys want to hear more about this, I've included links in the description below. And if you've got any questions while I have this unit, because I'm going to have to return it, I'll answer them to the best of my ability in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.